All right. Yeah, my music didn't play. I'm not sure why it didn't pop up, but otherwise, the show must go on. Welcome everyone to another Weird Woden's Dog live stream where we're here to wander through the weird, wonderful, often the wicked, and more often than likely a bunch of Wikipedia too. So, thank you everyone for hopping on board today to join me on this stream as I connect a bunch of stuff regards to Dionysus. Uh, you know, to kind of like lead it off, right? It's someone that I never thought I'd be interested in, and then maybe in a sort of Dionysic fashion, he kind of grabbed my attention anyway. So, but before we begin, make sure you check out all the links down below. This is actually a stream that I'm kind of converting from an essay I wrote some time ago. That's sort of a sequel to a live stream I did, the 1000K live stream. So this definitely is coming off of the stuff I did in that stream in regards to the ash tree, honey, and how it involves in both the Norse myths and the etymology, also in the Greek stuff, right? We connected the Greek word for ash tree and the word honey, and why all that stuff sort of coalesces for a reason, and talked a bunch of Philip Sidney stuff in there too as well, how he created the name Pamela. And so, and some of these thoughts that I had from that stream and that essay actually led into this stuff that I found about Dionysus. And so, yeah, if you want more of this ash tree and honey stuff, I got more of a live stream and essays that I have all down below in the description where I write them on Substack. And otherwise, come join the book club. I also have a Patreon or YouTube channel member. Anytime you pay one time, just any single payment for that, and I'll give you a Discord access to our private Discord, and you can hang out with my co-host Chance, where we're talking Shakespeare and literature and mythology and just a bunch of stuff. And so, just like online Alexandria or something, But yeah, thank you so much for supporting. Otherwise, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Thank you to all the other channel members and Patreon supporters and Substack subscribers. All right. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming over from the other stream as well. Super happy to have y'all. I've tried to combine glad and happy. So yeah, thanks for coming on today. Static sounding. Let me see. I could just take off these headphones. Okay. Once again, we're doing it live. Let me know if that sounds any better or not. I'll turn myself up all the way. Yeah, it seems I've been having a little bit of technical issues. I didn't get to show off all the cool music with the intro, but that's all right. There's always another day, isn't there? So, to start us off, like I said, I'm kind of going off the back of another stream I did about ash tree, honey, and the relation of the ash, in Greek, the word for ash tree is melia, and you can use the same word interchangeably between ash tree and basically like spear. I show in the Iliad, rather I showed it in a couple different versions of the Iliad, where Priam, Lord of Troy, is called Kailaus Eumelio, and basically means like Lord of the Ash Spear, or Lord good with the Ash Spear people, or whatever, right? And he talks about his people. It's like when Zeus and Hera are arguing over why Zeus is basically asking her, why do you have this weird vendetta against Troy or whatever? And that's how he describes Priam. Anyway, and I show in another version, a much older version, another older translation, where basically Samuel Butler didn't translate Eumelio, because basically Melia, if you take off just the A, and you have Meli, and that's honey or sweetness essentially in Greek, okay? And so yeah, and for a while I didn't understand, like, what does an ash tree have anything to do with honey and sweetness? That doesn't make any sense, right? And the nymph, naiad, whatever they're called, the attendees, yeah, they're nymphs. The attendees to Zeus when he's a baby, when he's being hid away from Kronos, he is being fed by the Melii, and they're translated as either ash tree nymphs or honey nymphs, and they feed him. Basically, the goat feeds him, and the main depictions, Ariastide, they've got three different names. You'll kind of see in the different versions of the myths, the three different ash tree nymphs. Let me see if I. Oh no, that's the. Let me get the Zeus picture up. So. Right, and so yeah, here's baby Zeus. They got the Corybantes, I think. I forget the names of the guys who are playing the war music to drown out his cries. You got the goat feeding him here, and these are the ash tree nymphs actually. And good lord, I already forget their names. I'm getting it's confused with Dionysus' lady's name. It's like Ariastide, but it's not Ariadne. Now I'm gonna have to look it up, otherwise it's gonna drive me crazy. But the anyway, so you know we talked about this whole connection, right? And so ash trees actually secrete let me get my thing here. Ash trees actually secrete a sappy substance that turns white and clay-like. Okay, and basically it's very wafery and it's very it looks like a hard dried white candy. I have some in the pantry that I showed like a link where I got it on Etsy or whatever. And but what other than being known as a sweet, and now it's modernly used as a confectionery, and its also derivative is called mannitol, which is a sort of a laxative or whatever. And so this sap has a natural laxative properties, and if you know anything about babies, you know their stomachs kind of need some starting up, but they can't produce a whole, they can't process a whole lot, right? So this stuff is like low caloric, low glycemic or whatever. And if you eat too much of it, and I've proven this because one time I was doing an errand, I had it in the truck, and I was just eating a bunch of it, and yeah, it really kind of gives you the stomach starts giving you the churns, okay? So and yeah, it definitely starts moving stuff, and so, but anyway, yeah, so you don't want to eat too much, and you can go read these harvesters that I showed this Italian guy talking about, this whole harvesting process, and it's like a cultivated thing or whatever. But I connect it since it has like the ash tree, once again known for spears, but also honey, and it secretes like this white sap that hardens, and it looks like white clay, okay? And in the Norse myths, you know anything about Yggdrasil, called the world ash tree, and the Voluspa, one of these old Norse mythologies, it's described as having white clay on it, and that's what the Norns do to keep it fresh or whatever, right? And I was like, what the heck is this white clay stuff? And it's called Skarpamal, and I think that's Snorri's, and Snorri Sturluson's version of the same thing, basically, right? Written sort of an updated version. He says that bees come out of it. And I kind of joked that, Jackson Crawford kind of laughs at that line when he's kind of reading it, because, it just kind of absurd. Like, what is this white clay stuff? And then I read all this Greek stuff and connected with ash trees and spears and white clay, and I was like, oh my God. So that's what that whole stream's about, just to kind of clue you in. And that's what all that stuff's about. So yeah, Melia, ash tree, Norse myth, Greek myths, and yeah, how this ash tree is very prevalent, okay? All right, anyway, it's going to it's going to super bother me if I don't find out the name of that stinking ash tree nymph. Okay, because I have all these other pictures on my essay on the stream. What's her name's? Amalthea? No, is that her name that I'm thinking of? It must be. Nope, it doesn't look like it. Oh, no, it must be. Yeah, here's just some more pictures of... Yeah, this is one of them. And they've got... and, their dad's name is, what is it? Yeah, Melesius, like Honeybee Man. Honeybee Man, Honey Man. That's like their dad, right? And so we have... Yeah, she's the figure most commonly identified as the nurse of Zeus. Anyway, and yeah, who raises him on goat milk. And so... I'm just kind of thinking about milk and honey and Zeus and all this sort of stuff, right? Because he's drinking, he's given honey, the Meli, and he's also given, obviously, goat milk, right? And so, where am I taking this? And so I just kind of started to think, and I'm like, this scene, right? So, yeah, Zeus is being hid away from a tyrant king. That word's going to come up later again. But he's being hidden away from, an evil king, being raised on milk and honey, right? It's often described, I think, like he's actually hidden away like in a cave. If you can kind of just have this sheltered sort of image in your head, maybe, right? Baby sheltered image, cave sort of situation, maybe. And yeah, animals around and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, this just kind of reminded me a lot about, little baby Jesus here, right? Kind of like in a cave manger scene, this sort of, once again, a little shelter, off earthen kind of feeling. Got some goats and stuff around him that are kind of attending him. And yeah, just kind of, and why is he here? He's also being hid away from a tyrant king, essentially, right? That's gonna be out there killing babies or whatever. So, and, once again, yeah, this imagery just kind of was like, I was just kind of thinking about it, like, oh, just Jesus and blah 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 blah. But then I was also thinking about the more of this milk and honey stuff, and I was like, oh well, there's what's the other famous milk and honey thing that obviously that probably most people think of when you hear that combination of words, right? What is that? Where is the milk and honey going to come from? Yep, hiding from Herod. Yep. Yeah, what's, if I said, oh, milk and honey, what's like maybe the first thing that comes to mind with that little phrase? Not to like put words in anyone's mouth, but after we'll see. The first thing, there's some Dionysus here. We're gonna go back to that in a second. Chance would be happy that I have the Titian painting here. I was gonna say, the Bible, right? What is the land promised by God to the Hebrews, right? The land of, I don't want to spoil too much. The land of milk and honey, right? That's how it's described, right? That exact term. And we can maybe quabble over, what. I think the word that they specifically use in Hebrew, right? Because there's a couple different words for different things. Is it like a fruit honey or is it like a bee honey? And I think they specifically do refer to like a bee honey thing. I want to say. Y'all can check me on that or not. Yeah, land of milk and honey. There we go. And so yeah, this is what Moses asks when he sends his spies to go check out the land of Canaan, right? And he asks, so this is what Moses asks, okay? And he asks, his spies when they come back. Also, what is the land they dwell in? Then again, what about the ground? Is it fertile or neglected? Is it fertile or neglected? Are people keeping up with it? Are there trees on it? He specifically asked if there are trees on it, right? And they do say that they do reply that yes, there is milk and honey. The land is flowing with milk and honey, essentially, right? And I already just connected that the harvesting of ash tree sap being very prevalent in the Mediterranean. Therefore, you get your association because it's sweet, and the word for honey and sweet goes back to the ash tree, this enemos or whatever, right? And so I started to think like, hey, when Moses is asking this, it's not just been like, oh, is the land abundant? Is it like fertile or whatever, right? I feel like he's also asking like, hey, is it being kept up with? Is it barren or is there a bunch of trees planted on it? Once again, not specifically saying, oh, it's an ash tree, but I'm just saying like, hey, yeah, just this idea of that when we talk about land of milk and honey, you can also associate honey with this sort of agricultural process and other things, right? And so, what is this land once again that they're heading into? They're headed into the land of Canaan, right? So more of this Semitic speaking land that is going to be more relevant in this section. Even that very name is going to be relevant to this whole thing. And so when I started, this is what led me on the hunt. Being like, oh, more milk and honey stuff. Just wonder if I can stretch it to mean, when the Hebrews are heading into the land of Canaan. Yeah, they're basically asking, oh, not as just the land good. They're also kind of asking like, yeah, are the people like tending it well? They got the goods going on, right? They got a bunch of infrastructure maybe. And so yeah, when I tried to find it more for Zeus, what I started to actually find more when I looked at milk and honey in the Greek sense was actually a lot more Dionysus. And for me, Dionysus is the wine guy, right? Like, yeah, Dionysus is wine, right? The grapes, the stuff, yeah, that's Dionysus, right? But I didn't realize that Dionysus is really heavily associated with milk and honey as well. For instance, when we talk about, I got all these different quotes here. Some of these are just straight ripped from my essay because I didn't have the pictures that I wanted exactly. But let's just see. So Euripides in the Bacchae, the manifestation of Dionysus causes, quote, the plain to flow with milk, with wine, and with the nectar of bees. So yeah, we got milk. Of course, we got wine, and we got the nectar of bees. And then the messenger in the play recounts the raving woman on Mount Kithaeron, quote, patting the earth with the tips of her fingers and obtaining jets of milk. And from the wands stuffed with ivy, from those wands sweet streams of honey were dripping. All right. So yeah, he's talking about the messenger saying these women, these bacantes, right, are when they are patting the earth, that they literally, the earth is bubbling up honey and milk. All right, and so maybe it would make sense, with some of this associations with the his father Zeus, right, and some of this the honey and milk motif. Yeah, but let's just let's see more of this milk stuff. More of this milk and honey stuff we got going on with Dionysus. Okay. Seneca in the 1st century BC describes the marriage of Ariadne and Dionysus causing miraculous manifestation of the god's powers. Quote, out of the dry rock there gushed Nactilian liquor, babbling rivulets divided the grassy meadows. Deep the earth drank in the sweet juices. White fountains of snowy milk and lesbian wine mingled with fragrant thyme. All right. So yeah, more of this milk and honey association, okay? And yeah, once again, I've always, I always just picture with the grapes, it's just the grape wine guy, Yeah, never really associate with the milk and honey thing, okay? So Plato. And so Plato's going to be here talking about the association between lyrical prowess, poetical abilities with the flowing, right? So in our English, we have the word mellifluous, right? Honey flowing, literally. Melly, honey, sweet. And then fluous, right? Flowing. And that's how we do a lot of Shakespeare research in here too. And yeah, we get Shakespeare, the honey-tongued bard or whatever, he got this sort of name, right? And so, why is this association? And so I would deliberately now try to connect it, honey flowing, especially in this dramatic, poetic sense, with Dionysus, okay? And so here's Plato. So the lyric poets are not in their right mind when they are composing their beautiful strains. So yeah, that's already like an ecstatic Dionysus state, right? But when are falling under the power of music and meter, they are inspired and possessed. Like Bacchic maidens who draw milk and honey from the rivers, when they are under the influence of Dionysus, but not when they are in their right mind. And the soul of the lyric poet does the same, as they themselves say, for they tell us that they bring songs from honeyed fountains, culling them out of the gardens and dells of the muses. They, like the bees, winging their way from flower to flower. Yeah, I like the emojis, the milk and honey one. All right, so yeah, we got our muses shout out today. We got our muses shout out. We got our, this idea of honey flowing. Obviously, not even just, sweet sounding stuff, right? I almost wonder if even the word melody has that property, and they'll say that ode is definitely like the song part, right? An ode. But yeah, the mel part, I think that they want to say like it means like metric, and I was like, oh, what if it's like the sweet ode, right? Isn't that what a melody is? And so I don't know. Well, we can pull that up here in a minute. I got some other etymologies to look through. So yeah, just this idea of drawing milk and honey and being and how they become ecstatic through Dionysus is the same thing as the lyric poet when he is himself doing it, right? You're in the flow. You're in the honey flow, Okay. Ovid, in the 3rd book of his Fasti, says that it was Bacchus who was the first to discover honey. I don't know how that's possible if his dad had honey, but maybe it's a different one, or a cultivation in a sense. But here, let's see what Ovid's got to say. Libations derive their name from their originator, and cake, since a part is offered on the sacred hearth. Honey cakes are baked for the god because he delights in sweet substances, and they say that Bacchus discovered honey. He was traveling from sandy Hebrus, accompanied by satyrs. My tale contains a not unpleasant jest. And he had come to Mount Rhodopa, and flowering Pangaeus. With the cymbals clashing in his companion's hands, behold unknown winged things gather to the jangling, bees that follow after the echoing bronze. Liber gathered the swarm, and it shut in a hollow tree, and was rewarded with the prize of discovering honey. Once the satyrs and the old balded head Silenus had tasted it, they searched for the yellow combs in every tree, and the old fellow heard a swarming humming in a hollow elm, saw the honeycombs, but pretended otherwise, and sitting lazily on his hollowed-backed ass, he rode it up to the elm where the trunk was hollow. He stood and leant on the stump of a branch, and greedily reached for the honey inside. I got a Shakespeare quote here from Love's Labour's Lost, and the consciences that will not die in debt pay him the due of honey-tongued boyette. I think there's another honey one that I found. It must be a Taming in the Shrew. I don't know what other one was like also like really vibing with that I was thinking like it was lyrical. Oh, whatever. I'm thinking it a little bit. That's why you keep commonplace books, people, right? I don't know if you know what a commonplace books is, but yeah, it's just about keeping headings with quotes from different things. And that's, I'm looking into the education of people supposedly like Shakespeare. This would have been practice that people are doing, so I try to do the same thing. It's pretty fun. I like it a lot. Highly recommend it. It's sort of an alternative to scrolling, or maybe it's purposeful scrolling. All right. So, honey, milk, Dionysus, okay? And I know that earlier, like I said, I was, connecting it to this idea of when the Hebrews are going into the Canaanite land. They're looking for, hey, is that land got milk and honey on it? And I know maybe in the Dionysus is people are literally making it spurt out of the ground, right? Not only, it's later people are also likening it, I guess, to the poetic stuff, even though Dionysus is also the mimetic god. I don't know if people even say that. I don't know if people can say that, but go look at my to meme or not to meme. I think that's the name of the stream, or to 6-7 or not 6-7. It's all about mimesis and memes and the Greek word for that, which means actor ultimately, and plays on what that word means. So to mime or to act. So yeah, Dionysus is like the acting god, right? He's like since he's associated with the theater. But so I was wondering, like, hey, when the Hebrews are going into the land of Canaan, are they maybe talking about this like cultic activity? These maybe people who are super into the milk and honey stuff, and maybe that's just ubiquitous across the Mediterranean. That's not that interesting. It's across the whole Bronze Age world, blah blah blah. Fair. I don't know, but I was just wondering, like, hey, like I just wonder if like they're a little more like personal identifications with people, right? They could have said, oh, is it the land flowing with wine and meat? I don't know, like, or bursting with wine and meat, and I don't know, it could have been any other combination of stuff, right? But, and maybe in like, oh, well, in Hebrew poetry, it specifically means, fertile land and blah, blah, could be, yeah, that just, this deliberation, but you're like, oh, Brady, Canaanite doesn't have anything to do with Dionysus, you're way off course, right? Even if you want to try to go over to that, Minoan area, Mycenaean old stuff, you're not gonna get it. You're in the wrong area, right? But of course, if you're familiar with probably Dr. Amon's work and Gnostic Informant's work and all those sort of guys, you'll be like, Dionysus is definitely in Canaan, all right? So that's where we're gonna start pulling some of these threads here, okay? And wait a second, where's the land of Canaan, okay? What does that word mean itself? I'm gonna do this whole. Y'all, let me know if this is gonna work, because we're gonna talk the etymology of what it means to be Phoenician, Canaanite, where do these words come from? What does that have to do with a bunch of other words potentially? Because I'm also going to talk about, we just got through a bunch of milk and honey stuff, but the color purple is also going to be coming in here as well. Hail Hestia. I don't think this is normal honey. Maybe the bees are influenced by some property in the ash, like it's chemically lost. Like the bees absorb the properties of the tree and the honey is psychoactive. They do this in Nepal. Oh, yeah, if the bees, because, they say that bees, they eat the pollen or whatever, and, they mix it with their saliva or something to make, their version of the honey. So that's why, when you look at honey, it's like, oh, it's from orange blossom trees, right? Because, they're going to promise you some orange-tasting honey or whatever, right? Yeah, I wonder if, that's super true, because that would sort of make kind of sense in the Skull Mall, the Norse mythology stuff, because, like I said, the bees come out of the white clay that secretes or is coming, a part of the ash tree, okay? I wonder if there is something to it. And, all this sort of ideas of utilizing these compounds, just like the Amazon, right? We know that they know if they take this particular bark and like boil them together, then yeah, you're gonna get DMT ayahuasca, right? Yeah, I wonder if you're like, oh, you get these bees, you get this trees, you get this whatever, I don't know, figure out the what's the third compound, take a pick, right? And mix it together, and boom, you got yada yada, and so then you see the flying reindeer. Okay, so now let's just to push back even Dionysus himself, okay? Because I didn't quite know this at first until I kind of, because I'm a Dionysus noob. Like I said, right, I was like poo-pooing Dionysus for the last couple of years. I was like, who cares about Dionysus? Man, he's overhyped. Who cares? Saw the Olympics thing, the horse race. I was like, who cares about Dionysus? Who cares? And like I said, in a sort of Dionysus fashion, he was kind of like, no, you better pay attention. So I was like, oh, okay, my bad. And so here we go. Realizing that Dionysus goes back to like 13th, 14th century. Some of y'all probably already know some of this material. So we got some Linear B, Minoan Bronze Age tablets here that might have been actually deciphered. I thought they weren't, but I guess they are. And, guess what do we got? We got Dioynsus. We got Dionysus all the way back to the 14th century. Whoa, that's old. That's super old, right? And this is just like one little blip in time that we're kind of finding it, right? We're not finding like its build up to this moment here, okay? So there's a lot of like mystery history to unveil here, right? And so, I guess here's a picture of it. Dioynsus. Dionysus. That name is holding strong. That name's holding strong through Bronze Age till today. Like, that's cool, right? Like, yeah, it hasn't gone out at all. It's still here. And so, just pushing, so yeah, we're not even in Canaanite area land, right? We're talking, a little more central, just south of, Greece area in the Mediterranean, okay? But, hopefully we're going to connect all of this Mediterranean world through a figure like Dionysus, and other people are already going to know that figures like Sabazius and Adonis are all going to come up here, and how they all kind of have this weird Dionysus element floating about here, right? The Honey of Yggdrasil. This would be a band or a song name, right? You'd be like, what does that mean? And you'd be like, oh, if you know, you know. It counters the dryness and excessive bile from the psychedelic drugs. It is simply far more beautiful this way. All right. Now, let me make sure that this is the... I got some lukewarm coffee here. Trying to keep my mouth oiled up and talking. See, I'm not not mellifluous all the time. I suffer from lethal logica, where I forget what I'm saying in the middle of saying it. Okay, but so yeah, we know Dionysus, super old Bronze Age, 14th century. Okay, let alone 15th century, anything prior to that builds up to what we're looking at, anyways, right? Because nothing just pops on the scene and is like, look, I'm here, right? It's not the only instance of it. And so when we're looking at and just to show you, okay, so here's a map of the Hebrews moving through, right? Here's like their journey, getting out of Egypt. Here's the streams of Egypt, right? Here's all the pyramid stuff, blah 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 blah. Here's the Nile. Here's the Red Sea. So yeah, they get their freedom, and here's like their whole journey essentially, right? And this map doesn't even quite show it, right? Yeah, look. Assyria's here, Amorites here, they got all the names, Babylonia's here. And yeah, we've got the names of the cities that are going to be relevant here, right? Sidon, if you're plugged into all the classical history drama, right, between Dr. Monhill and that Luke Gordon stuff, and this word Sidon might also ring a bell, right? The Sindona, I think, is the name of the term for that purple medical cloth, because it's from these areas right here, right? Tyre and Sidon, okay? This is the land of Canaan, right? This is Canaan. What does this land later turn into? Phoenicia. Right? So yeah, we got Canaanites, Bronze Age, we got Phoenicians, Iron Age, okay? So we have Let's see. Yeah, so just showing you the route of the Hebrews. Here's the Dead Sea right here. I'm going to maybe make a stretch or a claim here regarding the Dead Sea. Y'all can let me know what y'all think of it. Y'all can like barely see my cursor. Yeah, the Dead Sea. I'm definitely going to try to make a claim here. And y'all have to ascertain if I'm off kilter here. That's what I would... Oh, dude, if Dr. Mon could help me check this stuff out, or some like other Greek-speaking dude... LH, he's been having some hot videos too. I would love to see what they'd have to say about this, these things going later on. Right? I also said the word tyrant, and I said remember that. I'm gonna also try to connect it to this word tier, because I think it might all be related. How does it relate to Dionysus? We're about to find out, because it's all here. Okay, so let me scroll back up. Hey, I just wanted to show you the Hebrew path. Okay, here's a map of whoops. Went too far. Here's a map of Phoenicia. This is a little later. But this is the same area that the Hebrews are going to, right? See, we got Tyre, Sidon, Byblos, all the good stuff. Modern-day Lebanon and Israel. Sidon, Byblos. They're going to the land of Canaan, essentially, right? So, once again, they're asking about, hey, does this area have milk and honey? They got flowing milk and honey. I just wonder, hey, they got some, Dionysus stuff going on here. They got the goods. That's what I'm kind of wondering here. Because we know that there are basically very interesting Dionysus equivalents in Phoenicia and maybe in Canaan as well, okay? So, here we go. Picture of Dionysus turning all the sailors to dolphins here. We'll get there in a minute. So here we go. In regards to Dionysus, and here's where some weird mysteries going to happen, right? So I just showed you that in my Minoan Linear B, very, very, very old ancient stuff, mystery stuff that still hasn't been even fully translated, but Dionysus' name is maybe pretty much guaranteed here. One of the other important things about that is, I thought I had it here. Let me get this picture up, because in these old Minoan Bronze Age ruins, like they find this Minoan Linear B Dionysus names here, this stuff here, when they're finding it, they're finding Zeus's name. They're even finding like Ariadne's name. His later. The lady he gets with, right? The lady that is rebuked by Theseus, was it? I think. Oh, the static is back. Thank you for letting me know. I need to get a new plug here. Hopefully I'll and I have to like lean in real close for this microphone sometimes. So let me know if I do that again. But yeah, like I said, this Dionysus name, super ancient, and in regards to the name being found, what's it also being found with apparently? Offerings to Zeus and Dionysus of milk and honey. So 14th century. This is the same century that basically we got the Hebrews moving into the land of Canaan. Okay? And they're asking, is it flowing with milk and honey? Well, it turns out that milk and honey is a very, very big offering to Dionysus, and in some cases Dionysus is getting a larger quantity of offering than Zeus is. Okay, it's always associated with milk and honey. Okay, so that's why I was like, is there any Dionysus like activity in this same time period in the land in the Canaanites, right? We already know that the later Iron Age era is already highly interconnected, so why wouldn't it be the same in the pre-Bronze Age collapse, right? Especially if we already know that, tons of different areas already kind of have interesting mixed match of pantheons or whatever, right? So, or even, they'll find in the ruins of Troy statues to Apollo, right? So it's like, dang, some of those stories are kind of true. Well, all these gods, I fight them, blah, what the heck? Dionysus, Dioynus, Linear B, we get associations with milk and honey that far back, so my question was, all right, is there any Dionysus equivalent going on in Canaan, right? And of course, all all the people in the probably know this, but yeah, let's look at this Greek era, because here's where the mystery is really starting to occur for me. Okay, so we know Dionysus is in the middle of the Mediterranean in the pre-Bronze Age collapse, right? Boom, Dioynus, he's already there. What I don't understand is how did, by the time of Herodotus, is it already being kind of forgotten or reintroduced or something? Yeah, I do see the guy in the brain. I definitely see what you're saying there in the Michelangelo painting, Creation of Adam, for sure. Yeah, it's just like profile of the brain, right? So we got some quotes from Herodotus, and so what does Herodotus say? Herodotus, ancient Greek historian. I think he's writing in the 6th century. I think he's in the 500s, 600s BC, right? Let's see if I get it right. The 5th century, so he's in the 400s. All right, so Herodotus, by the 400s, is saying that Dionysus is being introduced to the Greeks by the Phoenicians? And I just showed you that, it's 400 BC, and think about it to the 14th century, right? So pretty much like 1,000 years before that, Dionysus, same name, still in the Minoan era, but yet Herodotus is saying is like, oh no, the Greeks got a hold of Dionysus, even though, there's ancient Greek stuff to Dionysus, but they got them from the Phoenicians. Like, what the heck? So here we go. Here's from Herodotus. Egyptian festival for Dionysus originated with Cadmos, the Phoenician. This is still, Phoenician is still going to be an Iron Age, the same people who inhabit the land of Canaan, okay? 48. On this evening of the festival, everyone offers a piglet to Dionysus, which one kills in front of his door and then returns for disposal to the same pig dealer who sold it. The rest of the festival of Dionysus is arranged by the Egyptians much the same as it is by the Greeks, except for the dances. But instead the phalluses, they've invented the use of puppets, measuring a cubit long and moved by strings, which they are carried around the villages by women. The phallus of each puppet swings about and is nearly as large as the rest of its body. A flute player leads the procession while the women follow, singing about Dionysus. There is a sacred legend which gives the reason for the appearance and motions of these puppets. If you remember, I brought up the word mimesis, right? And the word, it also where basically the word meme is also going to come from, right? Mimema was just coined, but it's using this root, and it means like to act or to mime. So I almost like think of this procession with these little puppets, the same little puppets that string puppets that are pretty common image, right? It's kind of miming and acting too, right? So I wonder if this is a more connection with Dionysus in a sense. Y'all can weigh in and see if that holds any milk and honey or not. So here we go. Make sure that everything's... Yeah, we should be good. Okay, now then, it's continuing on what Herodotus says. Now then, it seems to me that Melampus, son of Emethion, was not ignorant of the sacrifice, but was familiar with it. For Melampus was the one who taught the Greeks the name of Dionysus. How do you teach the Greeks Dionysus? They forget the guy's name? Once again, we got Greek, pre-Greek names of Dionysus, Dioynus in the area already. So how does Herodotus he's like, oh yeah, they got the name, what the heck? The method of sacrificing to him and the phallic procession. He didn't quite reveal the entirety of the sacrificial procedure, taking all the aspects into consideration, for the wise men who came after him revealed more. But it was from him that the Greeks learned to carry the phallus along in honor of Dionysus, and they got their current practice from his teaching. I say, then, that Melampus acquired the prophetic art being a discerning man, and that, besides many other things which he learned from Egypt, he also taught the Greek things concerning Dionysus, altering few of them. For I will not say that what is done in Egypt in connection with the god and what is done among the Greeks originated independently, for then they would be of a Greek character and not so recently introduced. Nor again will I say that the Egyptians took either this or any other customs from the Greeks, but I believe that Melampus learned the worship of Dionysus chiefly from Cadmus of Tyre, aka that city in Phoenicia, Canaan, and those who come from Cadmos from Phoenicia to the land now called Boeotia. So yeah, people want to say that Dionysus or Herodotus is no good and all that sort of stuff, but I think I think, yeah, these are the sources we got. We should probably just, proceed as we see it, right? So, and here's just one last little thing in regards to this that I thought was kind of, I don't know if it's humorous, but sort of grim humor. But I think it's relevant to this whole phallic procession thing, okay? Because it's kind of in the same sections a little further down. It's got to do with the Phoenicians anyway. The Colchians, Egyptians, and Ethiopians are the only nations that have practiced circumcision from the beginning. And I've read about anthropological reasons why this practice comes about, but not to tangent here. The Phoenicians and the Syrians of Palestine themselves acknowledge that they learned the customs from the Egyptians. The Syrians of the valleys of the Thermodon and the Parthenios, as well as of their neighbors, the Macronians, say that they learned the custom recently from the Colchians. These are the only peoples that circumcise, for it is clearly a very ancient custom. That the others learned it through dealings with Egypt, I hold it to be very clearly proved by this: that Phoenicians, who have dealings with other Greece, cease to imitate the Egyptians in this manner and do not circumcise their children. So yeah, this practice is kind of hot down in Africa, I guess. Once again, maybe there's anthropological reasons, got to do with sand, perhaps. But otherwise, yeah, they say that once these Phoenician people, once they meet Greeks, they pretty much don't do it anymore. So they're like, hey, you don't have, all right. So here's another little bit about connecting. So yeah, we got Herodotus saying that the Greeks got Dionysus from Cadmos, who's kind of a mythical figure from a Phoenician, which is the land of Canaan, which I was trying to connect milk and honey and Dionysus to that same area, right? Let me know if it all proceeds accordingly. But, so I was like, well, Herodotus, right 1,000 years later, is kind of saying that, it's coming from that area, but it's kind of interesting and weird that, that the linear B knowledge stuff, I guess, is, gone or whatever, so that's interesting. I just don't know how to place it. So, yeah, I needed some other people, experts to weigh in. And so, here we have the Homeric hymn, number 1, to Dionysus, just to kind of reiterate more of this. And maybe this is where this association of Dionysus being an Eastern god or something, right? That he's like a foreign god and he comes into the Greek pantheon and that's what it's all about. But, once again, I showed you this linear B Minoan stuff from the 14th century in this, Greek area. It's already there. So, yeah, how did he go missing? So let's just read this first bit here. Some say as Dracanum, and some say on windy Icarus, and some say in Naxos, a heaven born, and soon, and others by the deep eddying river, Alpheus, that pregnant Semele bare you to Zeus the thunder lover. And others yet, Lord, say you were born in Thebes. I think that's where Boeotia is, right? But all these lie. The father of men and gods gave you birth remote from men and secretly from white-armed Hera. There is a certain Nyssa, a mountain most high, and richly grown with woods, far off in Phoenicia, near the streams of Egyptus. So, right, Phoenicia, this is Phoenicia, near the streams of Egypt, right? This is not in question, okay? But once again, he's saying that Dionysus was born at some mountain called Nyssa. That's why they think his name is Dioynsus, Dio, kind of god. Nyssa, so god of Nyssa or something, right? This may be a folk etymology in this hymn, okay? I'm not saying it, so we don't even, this could just be, folk etymology, not even correct. Especially if they're talking about stuff in the dark here, just like Herodotus is, okay? So, once again, from Phoenicia, though, land of Canaan, same area that the Hebrews headed into, right? Just, driving home this point. Sorry if I repeat myself over and over again. But yeah, just kind of interestingly, okay, we're getting some more Dionysus in this Phoenicia Canaanite connection. Kind of interesting. And so, we'll continue on. I don't think I need to read the rest of it here. But here's the image of him, like I said, turning the sailors. We're gonna get to this hymn in a minute, but this is the picture, a scene of Dionysus here. I guess this big guy here, turning all the sailors into dolphins, except for the one dude who didn't say was respectful or whatever, right? And so, once again, this land of Phoenicia. I already showed you this. I don't want to show you the Tyrian purple yet. I got to get to the hymn. Let's get to the Dionysus hymn, because that's what I need to read. I had it pulled up here somewhere. Because basically how he's described. Oh yeah. Oh yes. Look at all this. Look at all these amazing footnotes. Okay. Oh, Pamela, hello. Yeah, glad to see you back on here as well. Kairos Menace. Hello, my name is Ed. Pamela, you missed my whole thing about, maybe, I don't know if you were here at the beginning, about Philip Sidney and the creation of that name and the relation to the ash tree and the honey etymology. But, you can go check it out. The streams of Egypt is Pelusian branch of the Nile, or the stream of the Wadi El Arish. All right. We need to look up some of these places. Yeah, but what does it say, though? Oh, let me go back to my... Here's the hymn we're going to read in a second, the hymn 7, the dolphin episode, but yada, yada, yada. Yeah, when it says in far of Phoenicia, I'm not familiar with the Wadi El Arish. Is that near Phoenicia at all? Because, it's just interesting that these are the few places he named, and essentially. I did find some guy who is, a scholar who does say, like, yes, Nyssa is Mount Seir, just south of the Dead Sea, and we'll go check that out and see if it's right or wrong here in a minute. So yeah, talking about Phoenicia, talking about Dionysus in Phoenicia. This is Homeric hymn number 1. So let's go look at Homeric hymn number 2. Where did it go? I did it again. Nope. What did I just do with it? Oh, here we go. Okay, sorry. So here's Homeric hymn number 7 to Dionysus, okay? Remember, think of the imagery that they're going to give him, and recall some of the location-ish, because, some people will definitely push back and say I'm wrong on this, because I already asked another scholar who, I guess he just kind of gave me the academic consensus on it, so once again, I'm pushing some bounds. Well, here we go. I will tell of Dionysus, the son of glorious Semele, how he appeared on a jutting headland by the shore of the fruitless sea. I also hear it called the barren sea. But yeah, by the fruitless sea. Seeming like a stripling in the first flush of manhood. His rich dark hair was waving about him, and on his strong shoulders he wore a purple coat. Purple robe. Okay, I should have looked up the dual translation of the Greek and see what word that they use for this purple robe here. That's what I need to look up. I wonder if it's... Yeah, I wonder what word they use. All right, anyway. Let's continue. Presently there came swiftly over the sparkling sea Tyrrhenian pirates on a well-decked ship. Let's look at this here for a second. Sorry to just keep pausing over and over, but yeah, they described them as Tyrrhenian pirates. And if you look at it, they even got a footnote here. Probably not Etruscans, but the non-Hellenic peoples of Thrace, according to Thucydides of Lemnos and Athens. So this word Tyrrhenian, if we looked up the basic entry on like Wikipedia, they'll say like Etruscans. They don't really, no one's really quite know why they use this word, and it's a weird catch-all term that they use for maybe just non-speaking Greek, but yeah, like they're not quite sure what it means, but. I don't know if y'all see this, but like, TYR, like, this, is that related to that city of Tyre? They're like, it's where we're going to head. So, like I said, he is, so here we got Dionysus. He's in a purple robe. Where is it? Purple robe. Purple is definitely not just associated because of the grapes, I imagine, but also, and royalty as well. But the color purple is definitely associated with land of Canaan and Phoenicia, right? Especially since, like, they're known for this sort of purple trading stuff, essentially, right? And we're going to go into some more. All this etymology is going to go back to some of those concepts as well. Okay? So we got Dionysus. He's hanging out by the shore of apparently a fruitless sea. Like, what is a fruitless sea? A barren sea, I've often seen it called too. Like, what would that be exactly, right? And I kind of made the gander, hey, we got Homeric hymn number 1 saying he's kind of like born near Phoenicia, near Egypt. We got this other hymn where he's talking about wearing purple, kind of a Phoenician thing. He's hanging out by a fruitless sea. And I was like, Could that be the Dead Sea at all? And there is a scholar who's like, yes, it is the Dead Sea. The fruitless sea is the Dead Sea, right? And that's why blah 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 blah. But I've seen other classes go, no, it's just another name for the Mediterranean, yada yada yada. Y'all can weigh in and let me know, what y'all think about this famous hymn, right? So the rest of it is the pirates capture him. They're gonna ransom Dionysus off, and he's like, and one dude's on the ship's like, you should have done that. We shouldn't have captured this guy. And then they all get turned into dolphins or whatever. And so very very famous Dionysus story, right? But, is it in the Mediterranean or is it in the Dead Sea? I suspect that Phoenicia in this instant refers to the whole of Levant, okay, and some of North Africa. Ancient Greek, Nekera, Thalassa, Romanized, I got it, Latin, Mare Mortem, Mother, Death. Dead Sea. My name is Ed. All right. Team Dead Sea. There was a lot more drying lake beds from the Ice Age, like the Dead Sea, but there are more of them. Like the Cedars. We got to think of the place going through the epic climate change. Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Now you're really turning my gears here with all that sort of stuff, right? Yeah, what they say that 5000 BC that the Sahara was not the Sahara. Like, that wasn't that long ago, guys. Like, what the heck? Fruitless seas can be deserts as well. Oh, interesting. But yeah, unless they have a sand ship, I guess. Yeah. Fruitless seas could be deserts as well. That'd be kind of interesting, yeah, because there is still sort of desert surrounded. Yeah, that's a lot of interesting interplay. I'd have to see what if we pulled up the Greek, maybe we could look at it. Maybe if there's any puns or clues in regards to what they sort of mean. Like I said, it would be nice if purple robe. What if they would use the word sindon, right? Purple cloth or whatever, right? I don't, it's kind of linen, so I guess he'd be really revealing, I guess, right? I wonder, does this have a Greek version? I can highlight some stuff. Oh, let's see. I can just highlight the word purple. It doesn't tell me anything fancy. Not that cool. All right. Come on now. All right, maybe we can look at that up later. But anyway, yeah, if we did, that'd be kind of interesting. And they would, instead of just phonics, or whatever, phone, whatever the word in Greek is for purple. If that's just the word, if they use a very fancy word for purple robe or something, I could look it up here. Merci. Yeah, big lake in this area, the Lake Chad, right? Man, yeah, that really gets me going. All that sort of crazy climate change that happened in just a short amount of time. All right, so not to waste y'all's time, I'll keep it moving here. So yeah, just remember, are we talking about Phoenicia maybe? Hey, he's wearing a purple robe, and Tyrsinian, and all the scholars are like, oh, we don't really know. What, they're Etruscans? That's what they'll say. But yeah, that's where I was like, captured by pirates, kind of kind of sailory vibe, and the word Tyrsinian, like how come no one looks at that front part and tries to figure out what it means? I think I have the word popped up here in a little bit, yeah, related to all this. Oh, it's on the slideshow. Oh, here, I'll show you the asterisk again, right? Probably not Etruscan. So when you look at it on Wikipedia or something or any other sources, they'll be like, yeah, the Tyrsinian pirates, they're Etruscans? But this is the word Tyrsinoi. In some editions, so I have, no I don't. I've looked at it before. In some translations, they'll just put Etruscan pirates, even though in the Greek it says Tyrsinoi. Tyrsenoi, whatever, right? So yeah, this person here, this editor is saying like they're probably not Etruscans, but it's probably just some catch-all for non-Greeks that shrug. And I'm like, why are they? Maybe they're associated with the city of Tyr, or at least some aspect of why that city is something, right? I don't know, like just throwing it out there. We're gonna look at some of all these etymologies essentially, and how you can kind of do some that game where you're you put your hands on the different colors here. Well, I can kind of do that with some of these sources and be like, hey, look, this structure doesn't fall apart. So here we go. So that's Dionysus hymn number 7. Are they talking about the Dead Sea in Phoenicia, this Levant area? Are they talking about Tyr pirates? That'd be right there next to it. All right, so let's do some etymology dives and see where that's going to take us, because that might be some more clues here Especially, and he's wearing the purple robes. Don't forget the purple robe. And, why is, so you might have heard of this color before, right, when I talked about purple earlier. Tyrian purple, definitely associated with bada bing, right? Sidon and Tyr, right? Really close to that Dead Sea, right on the Mediterranean anyway. And so, Tyrian purple, one of the costliest and most mysterious of the dyes of the ancient times. First used by the Phoenicians, it was taken from the secretions of several species of mollusks. Murex, Barandaris, and purpura, that's where that word purple might come from. And this is another mystery word that we're going to look into here about what this is. Hemostome, purpura, you can probably see the word purple in there. And was reserved for use by royalty, priests, and nobles. In Rome, the Caesars declared it their official color and claimed exclusive rights to its production. Dyeing with murex and purpura is a complex process which involves extracting the liquid while the mollusk is still alive and exposing it to sunlight for a specified period of time during which the dye changes color. It can take up to 12,000 mollusks to produce 1 gram of dye. Kind of horrifying. And it's just horrifying, and maybe you can even think about the symbology, right? Because we'll look up a picture here. So yeah, if you can already see it, and just maybe the inhumanity, maybe even in a sense the depravity of such a practice. With the fall of the Roman and after it the Byzantine Empire, the European understanding of purple dyeing fell away, and by the 14th century, the secrets of Tyrian purple were lost. It has only been through recent experimentation that the techniques were rediscovered in 2001. Really? Huh. Because this word purpura is a mystery word, definitely relates to the word purple, but it might also be from this, someone's going to make a claim here that it's an old Semitic word, aka Canaanite area once again, Phoenician area once again, that it's a word, for purple, but to violently stir something up, which is part of this boiling process with this whole thing, right? And that's where they think this, the purple stuff that you got from boiling the mollusks or whatever. We'll see what their claims are in a minute. And I just wanted to show you more of those pictures of the Tyrian purple or whatever, right? So yeah, for the different mollusks and the different colors they were able to obtain from it, right? So when they say, if you're wearing purple in the ancient Mediterranean world, it's going to be from a mollusk, right? It's going to be made from this process. And so when you think of Dionysus, this is what he's wearing, okay? He's wearing mollusk soles or something. Probably because of the Tyrrhenian Sea west of Italy. Yeah, the same. I think that name all connects, right? But it's just a mystery where they're like, it means Etruscan? We don't know. / the growth zones are changing. That which was a desert will be lush, and that which was lush will be a desert, just as it was, and it will be soon. So turns the wheel. Or what is that? What is the quote that I heard? As New Jerusalem is built with coal and steel, so turns the wheel. And when I was thinking about, so Dionysus wearing color and purple, and like I said, when we talk about Phoenicia, when we talk about the land of Canaan, right? All these maps right here, land of Canaan, land of Phoenicia, right? Same area. We really find a lot of their links between one another, and it's almost like the Phoenician civilization, which is, we'll find a contest here in a minute. But the Phoenician civilization, which is the Iron Age version of the later Canaanites, same area, right? I would imagine there's going to be some influence there from the people that lived there, even if it's, hundreds of years later. That Phoenicia is kind of like a phoenix rising out of the ashes of a Bronze Age civilization that collapsed, right? And some people will claim that, the phoenix might mean, purple dark red bird, aka purple dark red bird, and that Phoenician might also the people that are also known for this color. That's why it's called Tyrian purple, right? Maybe there's association between all those connections, right? All right. So, yeah, let me see. So yeah, yeah, I keep seeing the next picture and being like, oh yeah, that was my train of thought. And so the Phoenician people associated with this color of dark and purple. Once again, maybe Phoenicia, Phoenician, Phoenix, and I forget the word in Greek, and the word phoenix are maybe related, right? Because if the phoenix is called dark red something bird, and the Phoenicians are called maybe traders of the dark red purple dye, right? That's what some people maybe think. And a phoenix is kind of like a bird that rises out of the ashes of its dead self, right? It's almost like I said, Phoenician is the phoenix of Canaanite, okay? And when we even look at Canaanite, the land of Canaan, what does even Canaanite mean? According to the Bible, the land was named after a man called Canaan, the grandson of Noah. Other theories cite Canaan as derived from the Hurrian language for purple. Uh-oh. And as the Greeks knew the Canaanites as Phoenicians, Greek for purple. Right? That's what they'll straight up say here, worldhistory.org. And as the Phoenicians worked in purple dye, and so were called by the Greeks purple people. You seen it? Canaanites, literally hundreds of years prior, are they called that themselves red purple people? Right? It's like, yeah, the name didn't even change. Just our names of like how we identify them changed, right? Because yeah, it's just like who do we get the Canaanite name from? Who do we get the Phoenician name from? This explanation is most probable, said worldhistory.org. The theory has also been advanced by the names comes from Hebrew root verb kana, which denotes from chaos, a blending, a synchronous existence. Scholars Maxwell Miller and John Hayes claim no definitive meaning for the name, citing ancient sources which use it simply as a place name. I don't know how y'all feel about that. So yeah, we can just more of this Phoenician and Canaanite related stuff, but yeah, is the name word Canaan itself might just mean red purple people. Okay, and there are later people in the same area also called red purple people, and is it all because they're dealing in this? Okay, and the Levant was a quarter of many waves of people. Yeah, as we even just saw here from that earlier Hebrew and other migrations, right? Yeah, so for sure. You know, like I said, I just related Phoenicia to being a phoenix rising out of the ashes of a Canaanite civilization, okay? And what is Dionysus also known for? Sort of dying and rising again, I would maybe kind of argue, you know? In a sense, he's got a little bit of that renewal property to him. You know, so I was thinking about the word phoenix. I was thinking about the word Dionysus. I was thinking about all these sort of concepts. So I was trying to find, you know, has anyone mentioned, you know, Phoenix and Dionysus before? Is Phoenix and Dionysus a thing? And I didn't really find anything scholarly or maybe, you know, on that related subject in a sense. But I did find this. And so maybe Gucci's got where my mind's going, right? Where I'm connecting Phoenix and Phoenicia and Canaan and Rebirth and blah, blah, blah. And Dionysus, right? Because I'm wondering, yeah, is there a Dionysus equivalent in this Bronze Age Levant area, okay? And boom, this is what I found. This is the only thing that was interesting I found. I think it's Gucci. But I found this purse that is called the Dionysus Supreme Phoenix. Look at that Tyrian purple bird phoenix right there. Yo, have you ever seen a phoenix like that where it's like this dark Tyrian purple instead of, you know, this fiery phoenix, right, where it's kind of the trope? No, I want to see this, like, mystical, like, dark purple Tyrian bird or whatever, right? But yeah, here we go. We got Dionysus and Phoenix in the same word here. So maybe Gucci's picking up, you know, what I'm laying down here. It's sold out. So whoever, lucky people who ever bought this $1,000 bag or whatever. But yeah, just kind of seeing the coalescing of these motifs in my head. You know, this is the only thing I found that was like, oh, Dionysus and Phoenix and Phoenicia maybe. All right, because like I said, Dionysus is kind of like a phoenix who does kind of die and rise, right? I would kind of argue. So. Yeah, that was I just thought that was kind of an interesting find that I stumbled upon there. And there's also like the clasp is like a tiger or something along those lines. I need to find that old mosaic I found of a tiger riding Dionysus on the Discord server. like I said, one-time YouTube channel or Patreon payment, I'll give you a lifetime Discord access server. You can look at all the stuff that we talk about on there. But yeah, let me find this Dionysus picture that I found. Yeah, here we go. Maybe if some of y'all have seen this before. But yeah, they found it on the floor somewhere. Look, it kind of reminds me of some Alexander the Great stuff too. Here we go. Check that out. It's got that kind of got a little bit of that Thracian horseman pose, right? But yeah, he's not on some horse. He's on a tiger. He's on a tiger, baby. He's got the wings, you know. He's like, I'm gonna clasp onto this tiger with my legs in order I'm gonna make a tiger fly or something. Yeah, this is supposed to be Dionysus though. I forget exactly where they found this. Delos Museum Mosaic of Dionysus. So yeah, if you want to go look up more of that stuff. But yeah, I thought that was pretty gnarly, pretty cool looking. All right. Ancient writers like Plutarch claim the Jewish Feast of Tabernacles was a form of Dionysus worship because it involved booths, ivy, and wine. Full bingo. And yeah, maybe this is also related to the stories of Dionysus heading east or whatever, right? And maybe this is regarding this Eastern, taming the Eastern influence or something, right? He's like, yeah, I'm riding that tiger, Julius Evola shout out, Some Hellenized Jews in the diaspora may have participated in or been accused of participants in Dionysian or Sabazius and Thracian, Sabazius, a Thracian deity, sometimes associated with Dionysus cults, right? Yeah, I got our hand Sabazius pulled up here, ready to talk about all these iterations of Dionysus, right? So yeah, once again, yeah, this figure is pretty hot, Yep, good stuff, y'all. Boom, we'll look at that Dionysus tiger thing one more time. All right, so Dionysus, Phoenix, the color purple, the color red. What was the color that Dionysus was wearing in the hymn? One of his most famous things. Oh, he's wearing a purple robe, probably associated with Tyrian purple, Phoenician purple, Canaanite purple. You get where I'm going? All right. So we'll have another picture here. Once again, here's the Dead Sea. So here's Mount Seir, right, where some people made the claim. And the article I have on Substack, I have all the links down there if you want it. I have the guy who makes the claim. He's like a scholar dude, but he just wrote like an article about it. And he will claim that Mount Seir is Mount Nyssa, right? Where Dionysira, maybe they could stretch or something along those, right? But yeah, there's a mountain right here, near the streams of Egypt, near the land of Phoenicia. And there's just, that's the city of Tyre, so that's not really relevant yet. But yeah, just once again, yeah, this is for some claim where Dionysus' home is, essentially, right? Or at least this is where the later Greeks, Hellenic Greece and later Hellenic classical, not even classical, right? Just prior to the Alexander the Great period, are talking about this sort of stuff, right? Where, like I showed you, in 1,000 years before, Dionysus' name is already there in the Mediterranean Greek area. So, like, how did it get lost? Other than collapse of some sort, and all these sorts, those sorts of takes, and I'm totally down for that. So, so here's the city of Tyre, and this is drawn in 1839. Because we're talking about Tyrian purple. We're talking about the city of Tyre in the land of Phoenicia and all these associations, right? So remember we were talking about that word Tersinian, right? All right, we were talking about the word Tersinian, and I also kept bringing up the word tyrant, okay? Now, so yeah, wondering if the word tyrant and Tyre and Tersinian are all connected, right? Because Tersinian is basically a big question mark. Tyrannos, no, I don't need that one yet. Tyre, tower. Didn't I have it? All right, let me do this live real quick because I had the other etymology for the Tyrsinoi popped up already. So I'd rather just show you that one real quick because that's the one we'll show you there where there's just a bunch of question marks on it. I swear to God I had it on here. But yeah, I guess I just mentioned it in this article. Okay. Yeah, so the Greek word for Tyrannos is maybe going to be connected to all this sort of stuff anyway, though, okay? So, like I said, in the Greek, they're called Tyrsenoi, Tyrsenoi, if you want that translated version, or Tyrrhenians. And yeah, but a lot of modern translations will just put Etruscan in it, even though they can, once again, I just showed this other person, they're like, it's probably not Etruscans, but it's just a catch-all for, not them. But, let's see if I can connect it to this land of Phoenicia, this idea, and like, what is tyrant and Tyr and Tyrian purple got to do with any of this sort of stuff, okay? So, all right, let me throw back up my other screen. Doink. Okay, so we got Tyrannos here, right? We talked about the word tyrant. Is it apparently this is when they put here in Edemos online, right? So Tyrannos, our ancient Greek word for tyrant, obviously where we get our word today, negative connotation, tyrant, dictator, despot, absolute ruler, okay? And it says, look here, in this entry, Tyrrhenos, Etruscan. Yeah, well that's like the exact same spelling I just showed you. That this guy is clearly saying that not Etruscan. We already got a word for Etruscan. That's probably not that. Like, we don't know what Tyrsenoi is. It's just some catch-all for not Greeks, right? That's what they keep telling us. But here, Tyrannos, the word tyrant, somehow, is this related to these Etruscan people, or this word, Tyrrhenos, to mean Etruscan? Okay, what does a tyrant have anything to do with Etruscans? Maybe it's not Etruscan. Maybe it's something to do with Tyr, the city we've been talking about, right? And just from ancient Greek, Tyros, okay, which means tower or rock, okay? And let's see if I can get this a little more connected. So Tyr, the city of Tyr. And you can kind of see some other cognates and the other word and the other languages as well. Let's see. Yeah, so Greek word for Tyr is Tyros, which is just very similar to that Tyrannos, right? From Phoenician Sur, rock, compare with Aramaic Tura, mountain, high territory, Akkadian Suru, and cognate with Arabic names for Tyr, Sur, the latter of which has other associations with palm trees, another Phoenician hallmark as well. The ancient Greek word for tower, let's go down to tower now. Like I said, so ancient Greek word for Tyre is Tyros, and let's look at tower in ancient Greek. Ancient Greek word, Tursis, okay? And this holds still into like modern English, with Middle English, and Old English, right? So from this idea of a tower and a rock, because you can, or even that other one that said high ground, okay? Oops. So let me zoom this back out. And here's once again, the city of Tyr. I had that other older picture of it, and it's kind of on. It's supposedly on a higher elevated rocky plain, essentially, like where it's located, okay? So that's maybe this, Tyr. It's like, the big tower city on the big tower rock place, right? Wondering if that's how Tyr gets its name, right? And all these connections between tower and Tyr. And then, this T-U-R, for this one, T-U-R-R-E-N-O-S, Tyrsenos, right? Or Henos, I guess if it was more proper. Very close to, Tursis and Tyros, okay? And, just wondering, and so this, in later Greek times, when the Greeks were having problems with the Persians, the color purple will become associated with tyrants, right? It's not just, royalty, but it's also someone who's also kind of taken royalty by force in often cases. And so, this idea of decadence and opulence and control definitely gets related to the color purple from the Greeks later on, okay? And I just wonder if, if this color purple association is related to this people from Tyr or something like that, right? Maybe it's like some Phoenicians or something instead of Etruscans, maybe, or something. And there's like these pirate guys or whatever, right? We know that Phoenicians and this people on that coast there are some of the best sailors and got all over the place. So maybe this is part of the same thing. And later on, other people associated with these Phoenician colonies are all going to be buddies, essentially, during stuff like the Punic Wars, okay? Oh, I missed a bunch of comments. My bad. Toronto. Tyr was also the last stronghold of the Crusades, and they were holding a secret there that was connected to an ancient underground. Ooh, tell me more. Black hides the dirt of the day, only at least for this love for farm. Sophia. Not any rock, a high rock, yes. Yes, yeah, very symbolic. Yeah, the idea of the rock, kind of like how the word Peter and all that sort of stuff is related, you know, and popery and yada yada. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, the word tower being related to the word tier, yeah. All right. So, yeah, are Tiersinoi, are they people from, you know, something to do with the city of Tyr? They're not anything to do with the Etruscans at all. And I thought there was related the concept of purple and being tyrants itself, right? And just the idea of this land of Canaan and Phoenician being associated with the color purple as well. So yeah, and let's see, when we read off Herodotus, remember Herodotus says that the Greeks got Dionysus from Cadmos of Tyr, and Tyr is Greek. Greek is Phoenician, right? He says, I believe that Cadmos brought from Phoenicia Dionysus worship. Okay. We're just trying to track and see how prevalent is this Dionysus guy in this Mediterranean area. Okay, so here let's move on from Tyr. So here's a picture of Cadmos slaying the serpent dragon, right? And it's like you got three different plot elements, and different myths have, one's got a mixture of A and C, the other one's got a mixture of like B and C, and et cetera, right? So different dragon slaying. Sometimes you're slaying dragon and then planting the teeth, and then where sometimes you're just slaying the dragon and stealing the stuff from the tree. So Cadmus is going to steal, he slays the, which one does he slay? I got all my notes here. Not Dragon Colchis. The Dracon Ismenios. Giant serpent which guarded the sacred spring of Ares near Thebes, slain by Cadmus with a heavy stone. There's more of that rock stuff. More stone tower rock maybe, huh? Especially if he's coming from Phoenicia. Maybe he's, the association, okay? Ares avenged his draconic son by turning Cadmus and his wife into serpents. Cadmus was told to sew the dragon teeth by Athena, which grew into the Spartoi. And that sewing of teeth is also done by Jason as well. And he also gets some war dudes as well. And he also does a dragon slaying. But we got Cadmus. He's got his, it's not the biggest rock. That's, he's, I don't know. It's not the biggest rock you could, it fits for the vase, I guess. But here's Cadmus. He's about to slay the dragon, the Dracon, right? And, what did he have? And this idea that this is the guy who brings Dionysus worship, apparently, to the Greek world, per Herodotus, anyway. And just relating to those Homeric hymns, where one hymn does kind of say Dionysus is from kind of near Phoenicia, kind of near Egypt. And then we also get that other hymn where he's like, maybe he's hanging out at the Dead Sea, maybe he's being held up by some Tiersinoi pirates, some Tyrian pirates. So, here we go. And here's like where we just, and this where it just goes full, oops, I accidentally scrolled all the way up. And here's where it's going to go full, rabbit hole is going to threaten to collapse here, because this is when we start getting all those Sabazius, Bacchus, Gabasius, Zalmoxis, connections or whatever, right? And, so this one does mention that these cults and ritual activities seem to be pre-Hellenic and Aegean in origin, and actually not Asiatic, right? So like Dionysus, and the Linear B stuff, right? Let me read Crow's real second. If you use the perp for dye, you can't use it in the temple, and the protectors of the mystery schools confiscated the dye and used the port times send it abroad to bring people in. Tyr sonar are not necessarily from Tyr, but from the high place. Cadmus is the serpent. Am I wrong? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, he slays it. I'm not saying from the Tyr, but from the high place. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I can definitely see that. And just the idea that tyrant and associated with purple, which just happens to come from the Tyrians, and even just the process of the mollusk harvesting is kind of like kind of extreme, right? So yeah, exposing it to die slowly in the sun or whatever, get baked alive. Oh, we didn't even go to. I wonder if I have it on here because we were supposed to go into. Oh, here we go. So this is a old article, but I think it's still pretty good. About wondering about. Let me scroll up. So the origin of the terms Canaan, Phoenician, and purple. Okay, and so it's going to go on about some of that same stuff about being Kana or Kanahu, which is they think it's got to do with Canaan, designated red purple dye. The same mollusk stuff we were talking about, the same color we're hitting on over here, right? And it'll go through and in this one's claim, in this article's claim, it's going to basically, I think this is the one where it's going to say that, Phoenician, and that word purpura, when we talked about it earlier for the mollusk, I think it actually was, for that picture, is related to this idea of, churning and boiling the mollusk for the purple, and it's got to do with this writhing and frothing liquid that you kind of make, and it's a sort of violent stirring, and so purple and bruising and that sort of concept, I guess, is all kind of in this pot, pun intended, and that it's essentially like how the Greeks get this word for purple, essentially, right, from watching these post-Canaanites or pre-Phoenician peoples and traders doing this process, rolling up on the Greek shores and doing this thing with the mollusk, and they're like, oh, what are you doing? They're like, oh, purpur, and they're, and it's kind of related to the word prepare as well, but this idea of writhing, stirring, and frothing up something or whatever, and it could be related to this idea of purple, okay? And so the Greeks, they're going to say, this article is going to say that the Greeks got the word purple from a Semitic language, okay? That's what this one's going to claim, but then we'll have other articles, which I don't have pulled up. I bet I could show you which one it is, though. So we're on just JSTOR here. It's going to be the most recent one. Here we go. So this is one where it's saying, and this is old, right? I already warned you. This is from 65, right? So this is going to wonder, is purple and Phoenician related to a Semitic word, post-Canaanite word or something like that? And then, but boom, we got this article here from like 1994 or whatever. I think this is the one. And it's going to, I got to log in. But it's going to, I'll show you real quick anyway. I'll do it off screen. But it's going to be the one that will actually show. Remember I talked about Dionysus in Linear B getting all that milk and honey offerings, sometimes more than Zeus is getting, actually. If you recall all that stuff, we've got stuff that actually says purple dye and purple this being traded or whatever. I don't remember exactly what it says. This is definitely it. This is definitely the article. The Minoan origin of Tyrian purple. So they found like sites and on the Minoan coast that actually shows some of this process of the mollusk extraction happening, and they got they had warehouses of this crap going on, really industrialized for this, Bronze Age area, right, where they've got production facilities of this purple dye stuff, and they got tablets that say purple dye this or purple yada yada, essentially. Okay, you can. This is a great article. Remember that purpura, right? That same word that we're kind of wondering here is, related to purple, related to the process of extracting purpleness from these mollusks, okay? And so in Asia, the best dye was manufactured in Tyre, and it goes through some of the history, but I think it must be in Crete. According to current theories, the production of Tyrian purple was designated and monopolized by the coastal Canaanites. These people called Phoenicians by the Greeks. But this article is going to claim nah, we found some older stuff, older Minoan stuff, baby. We found stuff over here where it might predate production over here that we know about, or at least it's concurrent and contemporary, so it's kind of hard to find out who's which. I don't know, these guys being called Canaanites and Phoenicians might still be our clue. But yeah, they find this old purple stuff, production stuff here, and talk about the words in Minoan B, or Linear B essentially, I think, being mentioned here. So it's like, yo, this purple dye extraction just might be more accessible than we kind of give credit for, right? And it's just like maybe everything collapses, and then Tyrian purple and Phoenician stuff kind of gets more of the credit for it. Maybe the word Canaanites also, although like I showed you, world history is like, oh yeah, this is definitely purple people, right? And these later same peoples, Phoenicians are kind of got the same folk associations going on, at least on that surface level. So, here's all the stuff attested to be all these purple dye extractions in Crete. Pretty interesting, right? This classical Greek porphyr used to designate both the mollusk and its dye, but it's not an Indo-European word. Astor, I think this is pretty much the guy we just read, proposed unconvincingly to this author's mind to derive this term from a Canaanite root parpar, meaning to churn, to boil, the process being, the idea being that was how you got the purple dye from the mollusks. However, the Canaanite word for purple mollusks was evidently hilazon, a word of unknown origin attested only in Talmudic Hebrew. The actual Phoenician terms for shellfish and its dye are still not attested, as far as this 1995 article is concerned, so I don't know the updated on that. As for Mycenaean term porphyr, I would suggest that this term was originally a Minoan word, borrowed from the Mycenaeans when they learned from the Minoans to produce the dye. It may well be that the Minoan art has preserved depictions of garments dyed with purple, royal purple, probably best known for, here's one of these basins, Minoan sarcophagus dated to be about 1450 BCE is one of the found at the Hagia Triada that illustrates elegantly dressed men and women. Their garments are decorated with purple stripes of various shades. A famous Minoan priestess figurine, 1600 BC, also has what appears to be purple decorations at her attire, as do the dresses of the noble ladies depicted on the frescoes of Thera, 1550 BC. So, after Minoan power on Crete was supplanted by that of the Mycenaean Greeks, about 1450 BCE, the Greeks, Trojans, and peoples of Anatolia continued to produce the purple dye. We should recall here that the Homeric reference in the Iliad to purple-colored ivory used by Maeonian and Carian women. The Troad tradition of Tyrian purple manufacture was also noted by Aristotle, who mentions the waters of Sagaeon, Lecton, and Caria as being rich in purple shells. The Canaanite dye industry in the Levant was certainly not a monopoly. Indeed, the Greeks, Phoenicians, and others continued to manufacture Tyrian purple throughout antiquity. By the Roman era, it was already known who had first invented the royal purple dye, and it was often then attributed to a mythical Phoenician source and dated to the era before the Trojan War. Kind of like all this same sort of stuff about Herodotus thinking about the same things, right? About, oh yeah, all this stuff comes from over there. The archaeological evidence now available from the Aegean suggests that this industry was not of Mycenaean nor of Canaanite origin. It indicates that Minoans on Crete and some Minoanized islanders, such as those of Cytherea, were already manufacturing sea purple in the middle Minoan period, 1750 BC. It also seems that this dye was being produced by the people of Thera at the end of the middle Minoan era. The Mycenaean, Trojans, Chiroprotes, and Canaanites then continued to develop this industry in the late Helladic period. The Bronze Age Canaanites and their Iron Age Phoenician descendants were not the actual originators of this dye. It was most likely a Minoan contribution developed before 1750 BC, which was then adopted by others, including Canaanite and Phoenicians. Now, I would still push back on this because it's just like, how you don't know if it's, there could be some, just like pre-Clovis, there's some pre-purple dye people doing the same thing or whatever, right? So I don't know if you can really, you can be like, we found production in Minoan period, should we rely on calling Phoenicians and Canaanite red purple people if it seems to be all over the place? That kind of even pushes the date of it being known. So unless we go, maybe the Phoenician one makes more sense if they get to resume the production of it and take over some industries and are related to this, just get to, they get to have maybe the monopoly on it later on, or at least the biggest association with it or whatever. Especially if there's a climate change things happening, and things get lost, and then they get to come back on the scene, and oh, the purple guys, the guy who's refound purple, right? It's kind of like their trademark thing maybe or something. So, but yeah, like just I don't know, this whole Semitic, pre-Greek, pre-Semitic Mediterranean world is really, really fascinating. And so yeah, just chasing the color purple all the way back here to this period, right? And wondering if there is, just something to do with Dionysus and his wearing purple. He's attested to be from Phoenicia, all that sort of stuff, right? When Santorini went off, the Minoans lost their influence and the Etruscans took over. Does it say what they did with the flesh and the shells? We're with the flesh and shells afterward. I think they have if we go here to the top of the article, they probably will have the how they did it. We should note here that the Murex shellfish are edible. All right, so if you want to eat those those things, you can go to them. Let's go if they have the process. I bet they have the process up here real quick. Okay. And this is where it is. Since these shellfish had to be caught by rather laborious fishing and or diving in shallow water, the price of the dye, as noted above, was enormous. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, maybe I still skipped it. Sorry, y'all. Yeah, I probably did. Let's see. Yada, yada. First found out. Yeah, worth its weight in gold, as just mentioned. Let's see what it says here. The basic raw material for the dye production was a liquid obtained directly from the hypnobrachial glands of the Mediterranean mollusks. The shellfish utilized in this dye manufacturing was probably Murex tranquillus and Murex other stuff I don't want to pronounce. A third variety, Purpura hemostoma, was used occasionally. Each shellfish produced only a few drops of the precious secretion, which was then boiled in salt water to create the dye. So boiled. Remember that's why they're like, oh yeah, boiled in salt water and churned to create the dye, related to that purpura Semitic word to do the same thing, right? And related to the color purple paps. In order to produce Tyrian purple in commercial quantities, many thousands of shellfish were required. Pliny, writing in the 1st century BCE, provides the only actual recipe for the preparation of the dye solution. He reports that in order to dye 1,000 pounds of wool, it was necessary to use some 200 pounds of purpura flesh. His term for this shellfish was buccumen. Buccumen? As well as 1,100 pounds, no, not 1,100, 111 pounds of murex. In this process, the gland was abstracted from the larger specimens only. The small shellfish were crushed, shell and all. Such a procedure was observed earlier by Aristotle. The entire mass with water was then placed in leaden vats and simmered. The exposure of the liquid to light, coupled with the prolonged simmering of the flesh mass, as it was cooked for 9 days, produced the notorious stench for which this industry was noted in antiquity. Pliny also states that in his day, the best Tyrian purple in Europe was produced in Laconica, is that like Sparta? And the best in Africa at Minix. In Asia, the best dye was manufactured in Tyre. So yeah, sometimes they're crushed. The other one that we read, or the other article, the one I had in the slideshow, says that it was they like exposed it to sunlight and basically like burned it alive or some horrific thing. So yeah, royal purple. Going back to this, getting pushed back. So yeah, how are we going to rely on Phoenix naming essentially to be dark red bird and dark red purple people or whatever? Pretty interesting. Now I thought I had let me see. Yoink. Okay, yeah, we were talking about some of this other stuff here, right? And like I already jumped the gun earlier about knowing that people mentioned, Sabazius and all these other Dionysus equivalents all over the place, right? Even Jesus, pun intended. Yo, what's up, Stein? Tyrian purple. Any connection to Tiawaz? I hadn't thought of that actually. I'm not sure I don't know if he's got any purple vibes to him at all, or if it relates to his name. I know he's got more of a sword association with that letter. But yeah, if we were talking about the word Tyr, the city itself, the Phoenician city having probably etymology something to do with the word tower and rock and high place of some sort, lifted up high place. They didn't do anything notable with the shells. Sometimes the piles were used as graves, but most of the shells decay in some brittly way. Yeah. Is there a Tiwa's-Tyr connection constraining the theorists and being the very first All-Father, King of the Gods? Yeah, I don't know. I definitely have to check that out. That's, doing sound-alikes. Yeah, I know there's a god, the Norse god Tyr. I don't know. Because think about it, we got pre-English, histories that are like, oh yeah, Britain is actually a, from the name Brutus is actually, a prince of Troy that got all the way up there, right? And so that's all the way in this sort of Mediterranean Bronze Age area that's kind of a hotbed for this activity having claim, and even, Cimbria and Camber. So Camber is like daughter of Brutus, founder of Britain or whatever. Camber is where we get the name, Cimbria, which is the modern day of Wales, essentially. And so, yeah, there's all this weird connections to Bronze Age Mediterranean world, even as far as the Northern European stuff is concerned. So, yeah, it could be very well. But, yeah, I'm not sure on that very phonetic basis alone if there's anything to make of it. We'd have to see what Tyr's name is. But, Tyr's supposed to mean God, so it does kind of have this association of being like a high, tall place or something, right? So maybe there is something to that. Oh, it looks like my camera's died. All right, and so, I'll just read this last little bit here as we're continuing on since my camera's died. Because there are a bunch of other Phoenix-named dudes in Greek mythology, right? So there's a Phoenix who's like a prince of Troy, I'm pretty sure. We got Phoenix is also, maybe he's one of these sons of Cadmus as well, right? And he's like a brother of Europa, I want to say. So this word here, Adonis, is Semitic. Bacchus and Sabazius have strong Anatolian connections. I don't think I need to read any of this other stuff. But, yeah, just realizing, that Adonis is related to the god Dionysus as well, okay? So here's from the same book. Two minor male figures connected with Aphrodite are Adonis and Sinris. And, back to speaking of Adonis, sorry to tangent here, I'm going to do this all over. Adonis being, if we're talking about some of our Shakespeare material, right? Venus and Adonis, very influential English work, right? And this whole myth is definitely involved with it. And what's Adonis known for doing? Sort of dying and rising again or being rebirthed as the river blood or something like that, I believe, right? So, Adonis has always been recognized is simply the West Semitic title Adon or Adonai, my lord. So the word Adonis is related possibly to the Semitic title, or I guess is, Adon or Adonai, which is very popular, probably known in the Bible, right? His Levantine provenance was duly acknowledged in the Pseudo-Hesiodic Catalog of Women, where he was made a son of Phoenix, the eponymous Phoenician. Boom, Phoenix, Phoenician. We get it there, right? Some of these Greeks are doing the folk etymology. His cult, first attested in Sappho, is the cult of a seasonal figure who dies and is lamented by his lover Aphrodite and by his female devotees. It corresponds to Semitic cults such as those of Baal and Tammuz. The latter goes back to the Sumerian Dumuzi, the shepherd beloved by the love goddess Iana. Baal is the other more widely used Semitic word for master or lord, right? Often used in divine titles and acquiring in many areas the status of a name. He appears in Greek not as a god, but as Belos, the father of Danaus and Aegyptus, the uncle of Phoenix, and the great uncle of Adonis. So we have, Baal and these other Semitic titles kind of floating around together. Adonai and Adon being related to Baal, right? Who's kind of like a big spooky man in the a lot of even conspiracy circles, right? But Baal's kind of like doing the same thing as Thor. He's like out there kicking butt and taming sea monsters with lightning and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting that one of these titles that he's known with is Adonis. Okay, so Sinris and Adonis definitely also being associated with Dionysus, a dying and rising god, and even in the Latin times or Roman times, I should say, that he even has an Adonic name. Where is it? Yada yada. Okay, yeah. Adonais, a rare archaism in Roman literature, a Latinized form of Adonis, Adonai, used as an epitaph for Bacchus. And so, yeah, this my lord cry, Adonai, my lord, Adon, being related to Baal, being related to, Phoenicia and Baal, right? We're in this Canaanite area. We're still here trying to talk about, this area that the Hebrews moved into, this land of milk and honey, associated with, Baal and these other sorts of guys also getting milk and honey, or they also got this Dionysus association, essentially, right? Sons of the Lyre being Kinradi, Phoenician. Interesting. Okay. We'll go to the next little thing here. Yeah. The regular Homeric exclamation of woe is oi moi, right? Whether it is written as one word or two is immaterial. It is in any case the combination of an interjection, oi, with the dative pronoun, moi, for me, as in the Latin ue mihi. We find a very similar interjection in the Akkadian uayui and the Hebrew oi, woe. Also in Homeric, right? That was in Homeric. The latter is usually followed by the dative pronoun, especially the first person singular or plural, oi li, woe to me, which is completely parallel to the Greek oi moi or oi lanu, woe to us. There is another form with the initial he instead of aleph, hoi, as used in laments. We gather from Jeremiah that a dead king might be lamented with the cry, hoi adon, alas Lord. This is strikingly reminiscent of the ritual cry in the Greek Adonis cult. Oiton Adonin. Yeah, so this Greek Mediterranean Semitic connection again. Yeah. So yeah, the word Adonis, another name for another dying and rising god, sometimes associated with Dionysus, right? The guy who's associated with milk and honey. Adonis, the same as possibly a Semitic term, or Adonai, my lord, that sort of thing, right? Yeah, is this all a weird Dionysus influence here the whole time, right? And just, how does he get forgotten in the Greek world? Why does Herodotus say that stuff? All right, let's read this bit. Phoenix and Cadmus. Remember Cadmus being the one by Herodotus saying that he's from Phoenicia. Belus' brother Agenor was the father of Phoenix, who must be understood as the eponym of the Phoenicians. His oriental provenance is confirmed by the fact that in the Catalogue of Women, by Hesiod, he was married to a daughter of Arabos and became, by another wife, the father of Adonis. Adonis, I keep changing the pronunciation. Adonis. Adonis, like Belos, is a Semitic divine title equipped with a Greek ending. Ugaritic Adin, Phoenician Din, Hebrew Adon, my lord, my god. Unlike Belos, he had an actual coat in Greece, at least by the time of Sappho, right? Cadmos, the leader, legendary founder of Thebes, the one who slayed the dragon, is usually called a son of Agenor, but sometimes a son of Phoenix. A guy from Phoenicia, go figure. Certainly by the 5th century, the myth was established when he came originally from Tyre. Herodotus and the others tell us that his sister Europa was abducted from there, and that he and his brothers Cilix and Thassos went out in search of her, and ended by founding new settlements in different places. Inquiring after his sister at Delphi, Cadmos was told to seek out from the herd of the Pelagon cow that had never been yoked and that had a certain specified marking, to follow it until it sank down from the wariness, and there to sacrifice the beast and setting and founding of a new city. Just like, I think, Jason? Is Jason the same guy who has to set an ox to go move, and when it falls down, that's where he starts a city, I believe? The story has been compared with the biblical account of how the Philistines returned the captured Ark of Yahweh to the Hebrews. Philistines are apparently Greek people. Greeks who are Gene people who moved to the Levant during that whole time. I didn't know that. The diviners told them to put it on a wagon together with expiatory offerings, hitch the wagon to 2 cows that had never been yoked, and set them loose. The cows took the ark straight to Bethshemesh, halted there, and were sacrificed for their pains by the rejoicing Hebrews. Bethshemesh. Ruth Edwards, however, points out the animal guide leading to the site of the city as a common folk tale motif. The most interesting part about Cadmos is his name. Besides the man himself, we have Kadamoi and Kadamones as the standard epic destination of the Thebans, of the ancient Thebans. So the Thebans in pre-times or whatever, they have an ancient name called Kadamoi, right? Just sons of Cadmus, right? But We should treat this as the primary name to be explained. Peoples do not take their names from individuals. If you, we might have to push back on the Got video, right? Therefore, Cadmos was not a historical person, but simply the mythical eponym of the Kadmoi. So the Kadm in these names has no convincing Greek etymology. It's at the very bottom of the screen here. Sorry, y'all can't see it. But a very Semitic Kadm in these names has no convincing Greek etymology. So Cadmus, the guy who brings Dionysus worship, the guy who's found at Thebes, his name might be a Semitic root. The root Kadm, let me blow it up here. The root Kadm, from a basic meaning before, in front, has two common senses in West Semitic, the spatial one of East, Eastern, and the temporal one of ancient antiquity. Kind of like the name Adam itself, right? The Ugaritic we find Kadm, Kadmu, meaning the East. The adjective derivation Kadmim, Kadmiyuma, plural, of people of the East. Let me get to the mic drop here. Well, the same form as an epitaph of, I can't read that, Nippum, probably meaning the ancient healers. The personal name of Kadmon, probably Easterner. In Hebrew, we find the name Kedem from older Kadbu and the adjective Kadmani in both the spatial and temporal senses. Something about this root having to do with from the east and from the old and from over there, right? The Kadmoni appear in one of the lists of the peoples of Canaan who the Hebrews are to dispossess. And the plural of this form, Kadmonim, stands in Job as a general term for peoples of the east as opposed to peoples of the west. It can also mean the ancients, men of old, if such a phrase as Nersal Hakadmonai, a saying of the ancients. If we are to explain the name of the Kadmoi, to which, as we have seen, that of Cadmus is secondary, so the name Cadmus, founder of Thebes, guy brings Dionysus, according to Herodotus, Thebans call themselves Kadmoi. His name probably comes from this. From this linguistic data, we shall have to presuppose the residence in Boeotia at some period of a group of Semitic speakers, presumably Phoenicians. This is, after all, something that the Greeks accepted as fact, right? He's got sons and uncles and cousins and dogs named Phoenix, right? Even if only on the basis of a myth, and his historical possibility is of no more out of the way than the well-attested settlements of the Achaeans in Crete or Cyprus, of Assyrians in Anatolia, or Phoenicians in Sicily, Sardinia, Spain, and North Africa. We had not to think in terms of invading horde. A peaceful trading colony is much more likely. Y'all can weigh in and see if y'all believe that or not. I don't know. I don't have anything to say. Granted this premise, it becomes easy to explain Kadmoi as Kadmoyuma or Kadmin, either as the men from the east or the men of old. But which? The scholars who have been those scholars who have been at all receptive to the Semitic etymology have tended to be equally receptive to the claim of the myth that an original Cadmos arrived from Canaan many generations before the Trojan War. They've accepted the implication of a substantial Semitic element in the population of Boeotia in the late Bronze Age and understand Kadmoi as Easterners. In answer to the objection of these Semitic immigrants would not have been so designated by themselves, but only by the natives in their own language. So the Kadmonites are some of the people in Canaan that the Hebrews, once again, headed to Canaan, land of milk and honey. Some of these lists of people that they're going to go kick out are Kadmonites, which is related to the name Cadmus. Related to Dionysus worship, maybe? Related definitely to Phoenicia, maybe? Especially in these people's minds, anyway. We just did it. We just roundabout got us all the way back here, right? Boom. If Cadmus, guy from the east, and the Kadmonites, the people from this area, well, I should go to the Bronze Age map. The people that the Hebrews in this area of Canaanite are told to kick out. They got the list of Jebusites and blah, blah, blahites and termites or whatever, right? They're told to kick out, get these Kadmonites out. And, these Kadmonites getting kicked out, this migration part of this, even though it just said here, it's probably not war. It's probably just trading. It could be peaceful. Is that related to this story of Cadmus? The Kadmonites headed over here to Thebes? Is that possible at all? Y'all see what I'm seeing here? Yeah, so Dionysus, boom, related to Adonis and this specific area, land of milk and honey. Dionysus, the god of milk and honey, right? This guy from Tyre, Cadmus, is told in all the Greek stuff from this land of Canaanite. He goes over with all of his brothers and dogs and cousins named Phoenix or whatever, and they go set up colony in Thebes and Boeotia or whatever, right? Yo, yeah, is there, when the Hebrews are going in here to go kick out the Lord, to go kick out Baal, to go kick out, this another Adonis, another Master Lord character, or Disposo, and all that stuff. Yeah, are they talking about this wider Greek Dioynsus stuff going on here, right? All right. It looks like my camera has died, so if y'all give me like 2 minutes, I'll put on let me see if this will work here this time, and I'll play y'all my thing, and I'll put my camera back on, and we can close this up, because I think I went 2 hours here just spitting milk and honey. All right, let me see how this is going to go here. Hopefully this will work for y'all. All right, so trying to get all my cameras here set up. Turn this off, turn this on. Sorry. I got my little dinky webcam plugged in here, but I'll probably be hopping off here in a minute anyway. But just to say goodbye, hi. Yeah, it looks like it's not going to come back on. That's okay. So yeah, Phoenicia, Adonis, Dionysus, all this connection between this dying and rising god motif, this milk and honey motif that we kind of talked about in the beginning. Here's that. Here, look. Oh, boom. Look at that, y'all. Here's the Titian portrait. What's that color purple he's got on? It's not just some regular old, regular dark purple. I don't know if there's another equivalent, a specific number code to give you, right? But yeah, take a look at this. So this is Dionysus. Here's Ariadne. Here are them tigers and leopards he's gonna be riding, right? What color is that purple again? He's described as wearing purple in that Homeric hymn, and purple in the Mediterranean world is definitely going to be associated with Tyrian no matter what. That's why Tyrian purple is going to get the credit for, the name association, right? Tyrian purple. It's not called, ain't called Minoan purple. Sorry, Minoans. And when I was before earlier, I had watched some old thing of I'd watched an old thing of, oh, here we go. Now I am. A thing of I'm on Hill talking about something. Although I did get creeped out when it found out that he was part of some CIA schooling or something. So red flags. But he did mention this alabaster thing. Okay, and he mentioned alabastron, right? Maybe you're some aware with this about, I guess the main thing we'll just say that it's for oil and holding perfumes or whatever, right? And Amon Hill's got more of a idea that it's easier for like applying drugs and all this sort of stuff, right? But when I typed in alabastrum, guess what popped up? And I'd already planned this stream out, so I was ready to do this, but then this was last night, just on a whim, like, oh, what's an alabastrum? What does it look like? Oh, these like vase things. But look what we got here. Oh, we got some of the mollusks. Dermomeryx alabastrum. And if you remember, if you go watch my One Piece stream, Alabasta is another name of a place, city that they go to, and associated with Egypt stuff too. I want to say, and the color white. But yeah, this alabastrum word from this Greek medical thing perhaps brought up the mollusk thing again, and so I just kind of thought that was an interesting little connection there. Not that it really means anything as far as Dionysus goes, but I think I also have Phoenician etymology here, Phoenicia, and so whenever you hear about the Punic Wars, that's later on, as Rome's coming on the scene, Punic is just a Latin form of Phoenician. Maybe it's on here. I don't see it. Even though it says, right here, so in this article, compare with Phoenix, which seems to be unrelated. Like, not to the Greeks. I think the Greeks are pretty clear on that. Cadmus from Phoenicia, having uncles and kids named Phoenix here, and they're gonna say I don't know. So, but Punic is like the Latin form of the word Phoenician, right? And so those Etruscans and those is it Tyrcennoi? I know we're talking about the Tyrcennoi, but they're described as being allies with the Carthaginians during the Punic Wars, right? So these are all just Phoenician colonies once again. So there's something to do with these Tyrcennoi. I think still have an association with Phoenicia, regardless, even if they don't mean people from Tyre necessarily. They do just seem to have some connection with at least Phoenician aligned places, right? So that's kind of interesting. It is of note. Here we go. Here's my note. It is of note that Pindar in the 6th century BC wrote that Tyrrhenians and the Tyrcennoi were allied with the Carthaginians under another Carthaginians who are another Phoenician colony offshoot. Okay, so regardless, these Tyrcennoi, Tyrrhenians, the pirates that captured Dionysus, the people that are remember reference here, the Tyrcenian, they're buddies with Carthaginians, which happens to be Phoenicians, Canaanites. Is it too much of a stretch to maybe say these Tyrcennoi people are related, or at least got some connection with Phoenician here? I can see how this protestations can stop tyranny. I like that word, as we talked about it. One woman, two men. Earth, Zeus, and Dionysus. Because I always kind of think of the drama and how you would think instead of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, it would be Father, Mother, and Child or something, right? Something a little more, I don't know, something more encompassing in that sense, and I think all of human drama, we're kind of we are Dionysus. We're part Titan. We're part of the earth and also part of the earth and the ether or something, right? And so we have Mother Earth that always wants to pull us down and be earthly and be telluric, and then we've got Father Sky who keeps wanting to raise us and make us ethereal and make us leave our corporeal bodies or something, right? And we have to maintain and hold the tension in the middle somehow as sort of our human duty or whatever. I don't know, something about that thing. And so all of humanity is just a giant divorce between Mother Earth and Father Sky. And so is that everything that I had for? What was this? Phoenia? What did I pour this up for? Is this Phoenix? It must be. Oh, maybe that's what it was. Yeah. So, is anything? Oh, this was going into the color purple or whatever, right? Because remember we had talked about that in Arabic word for cognate word for the city of Tyre, associated with the city, but also associated with the palm tree. And this palm tree stuff is kind of maybe also associated with more of this dye stuff may be going on too, right? More of this purple dye, more of this production of textiles and clothing and, you know, augmentations or whatever. A guitar-like instrument invented by the Phoenicians. What is that? Oh, music. No, it says an instrument. A phoenix. Phoenician phoenix. I didn't find a picture of that. What is that? Yeah, exactly, Stein. That was my claim. Because yeah, they'll question. Most people will question mark Tiercinian. They don't know what it means, and they'll try to gloss it for Etruscan, which doesn't seem to be accurate. So would burial be a way to return the body to the womb, so that the soul may be reborn? You know, I guess that it's either put it back on the earth, put it back in the mom, or burn it up and, you know, make it ethereally fatherly or etherically or whatever, right? I can kind of see both ways. So, yeah, we went through this whole thing connecting the word purple, purple dye, Dionysus, Adonis, Canaanites, Canaan, possibly also their names, the pre-Phoenicians, their names meaning potentially purple dye people, relating it all to this purple dye, Tyrian, Tyrannos, Tyrcinians, the ideas of the tyrants, and the tyrants be associated with the color purple by the Greeks at some point. Yeah, I looking at all these connections between Dionysus, this color purple, you know, and honey flowing, and, you know, when the Hebrews are moving into this area, hey, go kick out the Cadmonites. They got milk and honey there. Is it fertile, or are they keeping up with it, or are they slacking off? That's what Moses says, right? Is it maintained? Is it upkept? What is the land Also, what is the land they dwell in? What about the ground? Is it fertile or neglected? Are there trees on it? You know, go kick out the Cadmonites. Go kick out those Phoenician peoples, you know, and their pre-Dionysus, Dioynsus stuff going on. I don't know, right? But yeah, this whole Mediterranean Bronze Age pre-collapse world is pretty fascinating, and tracing all these elements. And yeah, you know, Dionysus, I always knew him to be, the wine guy, right? But nah, he's the milk and honey guy. And when you are in the zone, when you're in the flow, you got that Bacchic rhythm going on, right? You are honey pouring, honey flowing, honey milk flowing, essentially. You know, that's exactly what Plato says, and those other guys talking about when you're in the muse, when you're in the ecstatic state, when you don't even know what you're saying, but you're just saying it full rapid fire, no hindrance. Yeah, you got that honey flowing mellifluous property going on, you know? All right. Yeah, so we did a bunch of Wikipedia gymnastics, jumping all over the place for all this sort of stuff. Yeah, purple people. People have such dark skin, it seems to have purple hue. There's been a fantastic, I was on this too thing, and I was nuts or getting induced or something. So yeah. Yeah, the color purple is interesting. Yeah, is Canaanite, you know, is that name related to purple or not? Yeah, was it related to that Hebrew word, that other article we talked about here? Oh, this is the one where it's like, nah, it's the other one. Oh, there's all my mail, y'all can see. Yeah, is this, what was the other one we looked at? Maybe I already opened it up. But anyway, yeah, that 1965 article saying that, yeah, it was Canaanite origin for the word purple. Yeah, all interesting stuff. Yeah, the Dionysus, you know, the Phoenicians, they are the later Canaanites. Either names potentially mean the same thing. Are they the phoenix that rose out of the fallen Canaanite area, the civilization? They are, you know, Phoenix, Phoenician, Canaanite, dark red, purple bird. They're the ones who came out of that civilization. Look, they even got it. Gucci beat me to it. They already connected Dionysus and Phoenix in this bag. The muse got to him first in this bag. You know, I just put it in a long-winded YouTube stream, but you know, same thing. But yeah. So otherwise, I think that's all I've got for y'all today as far as this rabbit hole is concerned. I think next time, because I got more stuff on Dionysus, I really want to talk about mimesis and the idea of acting in Dionysus and all that stuff, and maybe there'll be more that will come to me as far as that concerned. Oh, are you kidding me? Are y'all kidding me? Okay, hold on. Let me move my big old head on this stream. So check it. Hold on. Let me move my Now look to here at this thing. I only just now noticed this. Pickup currently unavailable at Arcadian Katu. Now, if any of y'all know your stuff, well, I'm still in the way. My bad, y'all. Boop, boop, boop. You see this right here? Arcadian Katu. I don't know what this Catu part is, but if you know anything about Dionysus, he's definitely got some Arcadian elements to him too, right? And if you know anything about the other stuff we do here, right? What's Philip Sidney's? I mentioned at the very top of the stream, Philip Sidney, the idea of the word ash, tree, and honey being related. How Philip Sidney created the name Pamela. And what was the name of his work that he created that name for? Arcadia. Boom. Boom. So, yeah, Ashes of Babylon, right? Thank you. Do you take requests? Of course, yeah. If y'all have anything rabbit holes, provide me the sources and I will divine them. Yeah, so if anyone has anything or topics to you would think would be cool to cover or to do my version of weirdness on it, WYRD weirdness, Yeah, go look up my video on the word weird and Shakespeare's connection to that word and the ideas of fate that it used to mean. Would have been even better if it was 33. Yeah, dude, you're totally right. So, there we go, y'all. Dionysus, Phoenix, Milk and Honey, Purple connection. We just went all over the Bronze Age and Iron Age, hopscotching back and forth. So I hope you enjoyed this stream that I did on it. I appreciate everyone coming over from Downing the Dragons, or bringing down the dragon. What is it? Drawing down the dragons. Sorry. Thank you all for coming over from that stream. Super appreciate y'all being here. Hope I didn't disappoint. Really appreciate all the support. Make sure you go check out the links down below. I sometimes make essays before I make the video, and sometimes I do the vice versa. So yeah, just keep an eye on the pulse. Yeah, I'm covering a lot of this sort of stuff, and so I once again thank you for hopping on here today. I hope you have a wonderful, pleasant Woden's dog the rest of the day, wherever you find yourself. Yeah, pour out some milk and honey for some Dionysus tonight. He's got enough wine. Big wine took over Dionysus. I'm thinking at some point, right? Big wine got a hold of the Dionysus name, and we got to bring that milk and honey back. So milk and honey Dionysus. Don't forget. Good luck on all your own Bacchic flow, and may the moves reach out to you and the Norns guide us. So thank you so much for being here. I was a blast. Be sure to check out next week's Wednesday stream for some more hidden lattice connecting of the reality that we're sort of traversing here. I will see you all on the next video. And as always, Nullius in Verba. Bye-bye, everyone.